Hello, interwebs. It's me, D.G. Chichester, also known as Dan Chichester. I am the editor from Epic Comics. I am the writer of Daredevil and S.H.I.E.L.D. and Clive Barker's Hellraiser and many more things, including a new Kickstarter comic called AXEL'S INFERNAL and including a new comic series called Risk, a cyber thriller that comes out tomorrow. But importantly, we're going to talk all about that tonight on Splash Pages.
Everybody, you are watching Splash Pages. My name's Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here.
I am super excited about tonight. Ratatosker is super excited about tonight. Tom Dog, hi. I know that you're super excited about tonight as well. We are going to be joined by one of my favorite guests, a man who I would gladly go into hell with, and is my happiest person to go into hell with, actually. Let's hop over to see how Drew's doing and let him introduce this amazing man.
Like I already said, we have a phenomenal show, a great guest returning. So thank God we made that good of an impression. Thank you, Leo. Yes, our guest is a fantastic writer. He's a man of many hats. I've never seen him wear one, but I assume that they're probably stunning. He's done a bunch of work for Marvel. You've seen him on Daredevil. We've discussed a great length about Hellraiser. We discussed a lot of others' independent work as well, but he's back. He's going to be talking about some of his current work, his current upcoming book, Risk, his current project, AXEL'S INFERNAL. There's a bunch that Carrie probably would have known to say. So, Carrie, I'll let you say that later. But everybody, the one, the only, D.G. Chichester, sir.
Thank you. You guys, I could just talk about your intro, forever. The whole setup, the segue, this incredible, broad, computerized intro, very impressive. Drew, your tip of the glass, it's like, I don't always drink this, but when I do, all very stylish. And Maker's Mark Perry, that is my favorite. So I raise a T to you on that. That's all I have at the moment, sadly. But I will work on a better imbibing. It's great to be back, guys. Thank you very much for the kind invitation and allowing me to shield myself. So
you're welcome. No, and trust me, Carrie will take note of that. So next time we're all at a con together, I'm very certain a bottle of Maker's Mark will just randomly appear at your table.
I would,
and not this one either.
Yeah, no, that one's going. Oh, the mini one. Oh, the mini Squirrel's got one too. Everyone's got one. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
He's a lush. This is Ratatosker. He's just drunk all the time.
Bourbon. That's good. That's if they have that. Leo, you're the only sane one here. I think you got the
Yeah. I've been trying not to drink during the shows because it's I tend to be a heavy pour, so it's
okay.
Yeah, especially I drink Maker's Mark, but a friend of mine gave me root beer whiskey.
Oh, okay. That sounds a little sweet.
So good. It tastes just like it tastes just like root beer, and I could do easily 5 or 6 shots and just like
and then
oh wow.
Yeah, and then both of them drink, and then when they're reading things, they speed up, or they'll flub the words, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna sit here and sip this little bit of whiskey and be the safest person in the asylum, and I'm like, okay, I hate both of you because now I'm the adult here. You're both awful people.
See, that's the thing, Drew. You sip, I chug.
Yeah, it's called rationing. We are on for an hour, sometimes 2, and you got to pace yourself. But no, you pace yourself like the juggernaut in a fine china shop, right through. So I don't want to hear it. You're a grown man, okay? You should know the difference between root beer and root beer alcohol. But No.
Leo doesn't normally get a chance to talk too much. So when he gets drunk, it's fun because suddenly Leo is full of questions.
No. Listen, I'm not arguing it. I'm just putting it in context, okay? No, hold on, Carrie. We're not doing this. We're not embarrassing me in front of our guest. We have him right here, okay? He took the Microsoft audition photo with great ease, which is probably the funniest break we've had in the first 5 minutes of a show. I just said it. I was like, oh my God, I'm an awful person. But he laughed. I was like, oh, thank God.
That is a look I can't get away from. I keep trying to get that removed from the interweb. And,
that's all Leo. He just looks online and he finds like someone else would have used it. He's like, oh yeah, we're going to grab that. We're going to use it. And I'm just like, when was this made?
Well, I try to find like the
professional photos,
the clearest photo. You know, it doesn't have to be professional, but the clearest. You know, it's.
I have two professional photos now. One that sort of looks like me and is a little relaxed, and then I have a stiff one that's on LinkedIn. So if you ever need, either of those versions of myself, feel free to ask.
I do remember last time you were on too, we had a different photo that was up first, and you were like, please take that down. Please don't ever use it.
There's a bunch. Yeah, there's a cycle of
and I was like, okay.
things I no longer want to remember. So that's not a I don't have bad memories of that.
Oh no,
no.
no.
That's several shades ago, so.
Oh no, I get it. I get it. I feel the same way whenever I show my ID to everybody. It's still my photo from 17, and I'm just looking. I'm like, oh God, this kid.
Yep.
And I show it to people, and they're like, they don't change it. I was like, to this point, the DMV has bigger problems than updating my photograph.
Yep.
So, but
yeah,
thank you. Thank you, Tom Dog. I totally could, but this jacket just won't quit. And it's actually funny because Dan, every time I think I got to do another interview with him, and I got to let him talk about his own work, because I still laugh about when we interviewed and you asked if you could promote your own stuff, and I flat out was like, no, because I didn't know. And then Leo
was hysterical.
Yeah, and then Leo brought it up. It was like, man, you shut him down. Do you not like him? I'm like, no, I love Dan. He was great. I had a moment where I was like, I didn't know what to do, because this was like the second year we were interviewing guests and I had no idea. So I just was like, what are you going to default? No. Got it.
Yeah. I was fooled. It was like, oh man, what did I do? Maybe I should just never come back to a comic convention.
No, wasn't it? And then later on, Leo was like, he could have talked about his stuff. I was like, I realized that after the fact, but it felt weird acknowledging it. So I was like, I was just going to play it off and then gradually make it up to him. And I was like,
you have. It's all good.
No, it was funny, but it was just like when Leo brings it up, you're usually like, oh damn, like Leo noticed, the master of the videos. He was like, are you okay? Like, did you not have a good time? Like, I had a great time. Dan signed my book. That was awesome. I talked to him about the Amalgam universe. It was like, no one talks about that. Everybody wants to talk about Daredevil. I was like, okay, Daredevil's cool, but
it's true.
Yeah.
There is one guy who is such a devotee of the Amalgam universe. He's got like an incredible collection of original art he's gotten people to do.
Wow.
He's Reed his name, and I've met him once in person, and he had a binder about this thick of all the original art he had gotten done by artists recreating those characters. And in fact, he was doing a Christmas card project, which I thought was very ambitious, where he was going back to the original creators on the Amalgam stuff and having them do Amalgam stories for Hostess cupcake ads. So if you remember, have like an ad with Hostess cupcake.
Yeah.
Spider-Man was like swinging around and cake, or he'd steal it from the Green Goblin or something like that.
Right.
And so in his head, he wanted this for the Amalgam guys, and he was trying forever to convince me to do it. And he'd gotten Mark Waid to do one, and a bunch of other people. And I said, Reed, I just can't wrap my head around it. I'm gonna do a disservice to you. Like, you're better off just going elsewhere for this, or if you can wrangle Scott McDaniel into doing it, more power to you. But I'm not your guy.
Well, you know what? I had a coach back when I was doing football who was always saying it's better to stop before doing a half-ass push-up. And I feel like it's kind of a similar thing. It's like, why would I do this thing I'm not passionate about? Right. And then you have it. And then I see it later. I'm like, oh, this is not no. Yeah. Like you said, again, you can bring Daredevil's armor back, whatever hell on earth with the Cenobites, but it's just like, can't do it. Everybody has just, it's fine.
That was it. And I felt, it was exactly that mental thing. I'd been in touch with this guy on and off, through the years, as he sent me notes, and he's always very cordial and very nice. And, he was offering to pay us, it wasn't like trying to get something for free, but there's that thing about, you have to also know when to say no.
Right.
Projects you're not passionate about, or things that would be a burden on your time when you want to put that time elsewhere, like on a podcast or something like that.
Howard Chaykin just recently reached out to his fans and is doing very specific commissions. He got accused of like somebody tried to blackmail him or something with like
Oh, really?
like you have this naughty stuff up, and he's like, do you know who the fuck I am?
Exactly.
Like,
Howard Chaykin.
yes,
Yeah. Whoa.
yeah, so
Yeah.
so he was like, if anybody wants like some naughty commissions done, send them my way. And I like had this like 3-paragraph description of something from a story that I'm trying to put together that was supposed to be it's going to be in next year's, but it was supposed to be in a like Cthulhu mythos spicy book. So it was like kind of tentacle but not really quite that. But it was like, I thought he'd be perfect because there was like Teslas involved and then
Oh, yeah.
weird porn and all this stuff. And he was just like, this
Nope.
is way beyond the scope of what I feel like doing right now. So thank you, but no, I just, this is not something that falls in
Even
that
Howard had
category. So I
limits.
was like,
Okay.
Yeah, Howard Chaykin. Well, first thing we're saying is okay, Carrie, I need to say this. Howard Chaykin is the wrong person to blackmail. I met the man.
oh yeah, he's making tons of money off of it.
Yeah.
Because...
2, what you should do, because he's going to be at Terrificon, where we're going to be at, you should bring that rejection email and have him sign it. Just then frame it. Just be like, I have proof that Howard Chaykin has limits.
Has limits, yes.
Just have him sign it and just be like, hey, dear Carrie, fuck you. And then Howard Chaykin. I'd be like, done.
Right.
It wasn't necessarily because the material was so naughty. I wasn't like
No.
that depraved. It was just there was so much going into it. You know?
Right. It's that. Yeah, that makes
Carrie,
sense.
you wrote the man.
And this was the man who the first time I got anything signed from him was like, "Can I tell you to go to hell?" Yes,
Yeah.
please do. That would be so cool.
Well, Elliot Brown, who's a great guy who was responsible for much of the technical illustrations in the original encyclopedic guide to the Marvel Universe, and he had designed this fold your own Hellraiser box, for us when we did the original book, and it was like a giveaway to stores, and that was how it was always supposed to end. It was supposed to fold this, put tab A into tab B, glue tab, Z, and Elliot had to break it all down for me. And the last line was, the last part of the instructions was go to hell. And and they made us pull it at the last minute. They were
what?
Clive Barker's Hellraiser on the promo thing, and then we had to say have a nice trip, which maybe was.
Did I show you my?
Yes, but
there you go.
I'll show you my new one. Mine.
Did
you
make
mine
this,
can...
or did you? Is this a purchase?
Oh no. I purchased this. I had a normal just display one, but then I had to get the one that I can actually take apart.
Right.
So
right. I 3D printed a little mini one that I take to conventions now. So it's much like that one. You can pull it apart and you can reorient it in that way. There's another one you can actually take apart and has like a secret compartment in the middle of it, but that was a little too elaborate.
It was so funny because I met up. Yeah, it does. But I remember I was talking to a friend of mine and we were talking about horror movies, and she just thought, I was like, what do you feel is like a horror movie that's overrated? And she brought up Hellraiser, and I had this thought, which I was a quote from someone I met years ago. I was like, well, you're entitled to your opinion. It's just wrong.
Right.
Because I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine.
The original one she was referring to, not the Hulu one, the original one.
Yeah. But I was like, are you kidding? Like, Hellraiser is amazing. Like, what is, like, I was like, thank God this is not in person. Otherwise, I would have to be like, smoke bomb. Nope.
Right.
Smoke screen. Nope. Screensaver mode. I'm like, oh no, yeah, that's a thought.
I mean, if she was referring to like some of them way down the line, they weren't all as impressive. As they could have been.
Like, you mean Hellraiser 9, like Cenobites in Space or whatever it was?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I lost track after. I'm aware of 4. I don't think I've ever seen 4, but
I've watched them all. I had like the most recent one before the reboot.
Right.
That Doug turned down right away because they sent him deals, or what's the you can't talk about that, do not
And
chat about
NDA.
this anymore. NDA,
Yeah.
thank you. They sent him an NDA from hell, which apparently isn't that big of a thing, but he turned it down, and like a day later, rather than negotiating, they cast somebody else because they just needed to get the filming done. And it was based off of an old script and stuff. And it was a good movie, but it did not require Pinhead to be in it. As you know,
Right.
there are so many different groups of Cenobites. They did not need the Order of the Gash to be involved at all. Had they put in any other Cenobite, it would have been a really good movie. He wasn't required to be in it, and so that's the only thing that kind of brought it down, was like, why is he even here? Because none of this has anything to do with his main calling, you know. So
yeah,
and
but
you
Carrie,
wrote the Bible on it, so you know it.
yeah. Yeah, but Carrie, we talked about the same thing when we were talking about the Hulu Hellraiser, or as I called it, the Hulu Razor, which I'm still very proud of. It's a small victory, Dan. But yeah, I mean, they could have been anybody else, but they just kind of stuck to the same story, but they were just completely different. It was like, yes, it could be any other group of Cenobites. It doesn't have to be the priest or any of the others, but here we are. Because
the thing is, they never expanded upon
I know
the universe in the movies so much. You know, everything was there for them to kind of open it up, and it becomes, you know, this bigger platform. But Hellraiser becomes synonymous then with Pinhead, and then it's the poster. You know, it has to be there. And you know, even in the reboot again, you know, you've got to have somebody with pins in their face, whether it's, you know, a Doug Bradley rip, or, you know, a female priest, or whatever it is. So they've done themselves a disservice, you know, over the years by not expanding that to where hell raising, you know, means any number of these devotees, you know.
Absolutely.
That's their own.
But you know,
before we move on from that, just I know it's not Pinhead and it's nowhere near close, but did you read Batman Dark Patterns?
No, I haven't. Should I? Was it good?
Yeah.
It's really good, but
oh my god, yes. I know what you're going at with Leo. Nice segue.
Yeah, what did they call him?
The wounded man.
Wounded Man, yeah. So it's instead of like pins on the head, he has, you know, he drove like nails all throughout his body.
He can't feel it.
It's based on an old medical diagram. Actually, it's a historically accurate. You'll see it and you'll be like, oh,
yeah,
because I know you.
Yeah, but then so he can't feel anything. So he has all of this in his skin. He should be in agony. His nerves are dead. He's basically oh yeah. But it's
By the way, while we're having a quick break here, guys, we put it on the advertisements, but Dan here is awesome and is giving away some freebies towards the end of the show. And so make sure that you comment, ask some questions, do your thing, because up for grabs are a copy of AXEL'S Infernal #1, an AXEL'S Infernal prize pack, which is an autographed 11x17 print poster of the issue 1 cover, a holographic sticker of the logo, and an autographed copy of the #1 script, an autographed Daredevil Black Armor collection, and an autographed copy of Street Writers, his soon-to-be released book, which collects writing tips and tricks from his writing podcast from a couple years back. And I also notice, I found this when I was looking at Street Writers, that you have, I'm not going to say her name because she'll talk to me, but an Amazon AI app or skill that for Street Writers.
I do, yeah.
So far.
I don't think
she needs to be updated.
Yeah, she hasn't updated in a while. But I think it seemed sexy in the early days of Alexa. But and since we're not doing the podcast anymore, I'll be quite honest with you, I probably will not get around to updating it. It's sort of like the amalgam with the book. I know, but you know, I have problems with Alexa anyway. You know, she's not kept up with the world.
It's okay. We understand that. We get it. Yeah. But speaking of, you know, throwing it back, I definitely want to bring up. So I love that again. You during your run of Daredevil, you did the armor. The Daredevil armor. Um, it didn't have the greatest reaction. And then it kind of got put away. And then it came back, and it was a popular book. People were like, "Oh wow, this is great!" Like people like me who had completely, it was like, "Oh yeah, that happened." And I was just reading. I was like, "This is fun." Like, do you remember when Daredevil was like, not gloomy? I was like, "Wow, fun." And then what I enjoy is, and I don't know if you know this, but he recently the current Daredevil run, Saladin Ahmed run, he's wearing it again. I'm like, man, you just can't get enough of this armor.
Yep, I think it's the ultimate redemption arc, so long as in that current run they don't utterly destroy it again, which is what they did after I was removed from the book. They literally destroyed it. They spent an entire issue like having, I think, Warren Ellis like cut it up with scissors or something. Comical because it was supposed to be this tough, material.
Right.
And then so they just put it away, Drew. They, they removed it, from continuity. And so I sort of see the Hasbro toy, the Black Armor miniseries I did with Netho Diaz, and now the fact it's appearing in the regular book, like the ultimate redemption arc,
absolutely. I mean, literally, I was reading that run because later on in the year we're going to have Saladin Ahmed on. So we're looking. Awesome. Yeah. Very excited. We're having him on later in the year. But and I was like, oh my God, like, because I opened the book and I'm like, I just see a John Romita Jr. cover and it's the Black Armor. Like, okay, like what? And then I'm reading the book. I'm like, oh my God, like, and I saved one or two of the images just because I was like, holy crap. Carrie Leo, if you don't mind.
Leo.
Oh, sorry, I was sharing on social. Repeat that.
Leo, can you please
Open
share
the Drew file?
Thank you.
Drew file.
The Drew folder.
Like the X-Files, except it's.
Yep, it's just full of lunacy. Yep.
Everything's based on Drew. We do Drew's news, like Blue's Clues.
Yep, I don't want to talk about it.
Is there a jingle for that we've got?
Like, no, actually there is.
Oh yes, there's a whole commercial for it.
Oh,
and a face splice thing with him holding a handy dandy notebook and everything.
Cool.
Yep, and at the end they always show my reaction, and I'm like, I am not drunk enough for this shit.
I got a. Oh, there we go.
So you have Nyla coming back from, who I believe was a character during your run, or something like.
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think she's part of my world.
She knew of your of Matt when he was going as his other identity, which was your idea, the Jack.
Right. Yep, but that's interesting. Okay, so they're even tying back into that. Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of nods back.
Yeah, so you have that, and then Leo.
Leo.
This.
That's a good shot. That's
I was like, oh man.
Well done.
Yeah, and then the funny thing is, and then with the last image, he's like putting it away, and he's talking about how, like, I guess he was dealing with it feeling itchy. It was like, God, this thing, I know it's a little uncomfortable, but God, I'm like Matt, you don't think to wash this thing? Like, did we not learn from Spider-Man? Like, come on, man.
Yeah. Also, like, you got super senses. Everything is going to.
Yeah.
But I was.
Would you rather itch or be shot?
Right. But
exactly.
Funny. He's putting it away in like a storage closet. It's
exactly. Well,
the prom tux I never got rid of.
There you go. And I'm sure eventually you could still fit. But the point is, it was just, I was like, wow, this is just like, just seeing it, I was like,
yeah, like, treat it like so, like, matter of fact. It's kind of cool. So they never acknowledge like how he gets it back, do they? I assume in the story. So
it just
shows up in it.
His regular duds were messed up. He needed a
right.
He just, hey, I still have this. still
right.
fits. And I'm like, all right, cool, man. Like,
Well, that's awesome. I mean, that was the original impetus
That's-
for the suit anyway. Was that the original one got destroyed, and he said, "I can't go back to red jammies. I need
mhm.
something tougher." So they're playing off the same themes. So
Yeah,
I heartily approve. So that's
there you
very
go.
very cool. And
Yeah,
I
man.
did see the JR cover and the John Romita cover, and I did get a
Mhm.
good laugh out of that because it was it was kind of a bit of a thrill to see him illustrating it, because when we were doing the Fall from Grace story in the first place, he
Mhm.
was concurrently doing the Man Without Fear series with Frank Miller. So
Right.
there was a group interview that they did. I don't know if I told you guys the story before, but
Mhm.
they were doing a group interview with us just about Daredevil. So it was me, I think it was Scott McDaniel, it was John Romita Jr., it wasn't Frank
Mhm.
Miller, there might have been somebody else. And
Right.
at one point they turn it over to me and they say, Dan, tell us about this new costume. So I go on, this enthusiastic rant talking about, like, biomimetics, and and it's made of this and it's made of that. I'm so impressed with myself. And I look up and I just see John looking at me and he's like, "What are you smoking?"
Wow.
somewhere being like, impressed, and just, this guy is off the deep end. And in a wonderful way. I mean, he's a great guy.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, that's awesome. No, but
Yeah.
like you said, here we are. It's
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
still got it. So, like you
That's
said,
awesome.
ultimate redemption.
No,
So,
I mean, I sort of set it up in the Black Armor series in my mind, it would be available, to
mhm.
him, in the
Absolutely.
sense that that Melvin Potter had fixed it for him. So I always figured
Yeah,
there was another version he had somewhere. But
absolutely.
now that they've got it back in continuity, maybe they use it again before 30 years go by.
Yeah, I'm hoping,
That
because
would be good.
like I said, when your mini ended about it, I was like, man, I hope they do more, because it was just so much fun
Yeah.
reading that and whatnot. And I was like, again, you were just having a good time, and you had a great collaborator, and
Totally.
all 5 issues were just such a blast to read. And so again, seeing this, I was like, yeah, Marvel, you still got it. I mean, it's a little
Yeah.
delayed, but you still got it.
No,
So,
no.
so
They
just
got my number if they ever want to take a walk down retro lane again. So
hey, listen, we'll be reading. So, all right,
I was
that. Yeah.
I was so
So that.
sad that you. Yeah. Oh, cool.
Oh no, Leo, I was gonna Leo. You can move that. No, it's fine. Put it away. We're good. Put it back in the
put
closet
them back
for
in the
later.
closet, back in the storage unit where it's
Yep.
hanging
And
out.
not the incinerator. It's where we put the other thing.
No incinerators. No.
No incinerator this time. You were saying, Carrie.
Well, I was so sad because last year you booked yourself ahead of time to another con before you got invited to Terrificon, where all of the Daredevil people were. And
Right.
it was like, well, I guess I'm not going to any Daredevil panels or anything because Dan's not going to be there. So what's the point?
Yeah. There was.
And then that all got torpedoed anyway, because I went on vacation about a week before that was supposed to happen, and my wife had an injury 5 hours into our vacation, so she broke one foot and sprained the other, and
Oh my
we had
gosh.
to fly back across. We had to cancel the whole trip. We had to fly back across the country. It was in Seattle, and then I had to cancel, that show, which was in San Jose, and then Mitch, who runs Terrificon, was like, "Well, do you want to come up, for just the day to Terrificon and be on the panel?" And I said, "I just can't. It was her injury was too fresh, and we were trying to navigate what was going on." So,
Of course.
but that was disappointing to miss. But I understand Ralph Macchio said nice things about me, so
Oh yeah, he
that's
did.
all that matters.
I was sitting in that panel. Ralph had wonderful things to say about you and other people who could not be there, but still contributed to that great legacy of the
That's
man.
great. That's great. Yeah, I haven't
Yeah.
seen Ralph in too long. So.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, a foot injury does not give you superpowers, so
No,
she wasn't
there was
able
no
to.
super hopping across country. No, nothing. No mutant powers came from it.
A lot of cursing, probably.
Yes, a lot of cursing. I'm directed at me, but
So
that was,
Yeah.
Just real quick, since Daredevil is back in the MCU, I'm sure there's plenty of panels to come from or
Oh,
upcoming.
Oh,
Um,
I'm always grateful for, connections with people, and I reach out, and sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm not, I'm hopeful, like some of the things that had to get canceled get reconnected. I'm connected well with the GalaxyCon folks as well, and they've often brought me in on stuff. So I just came back from doing a show in Richmond, about a month ago. So that was a good fun time.
and and
I,
it,
I want to put together a panel with you and a couple of other people that are just like creators that are way too smart for their own good and are dark as shit.
no.
Because
I'm sorry,
I like that.
Carrie. No, I'm sorry. Your panel is how we did the Midnight Suns, a discussion. And how it will never happen again in exactly the same fever. Moderated by
Well,
Carrie.
I've noted a lot of the horror authors, you guys, and creators in general, I'm going to say, because I shouldn't just say writers, because a lot of the artists dig deep
Oh
too.
yeah.
But you guys, I, 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 I occasionally have to actually look something up, which
Hmm.
I'm not trying to brag, but I'm a pretty fucking smart, twisted chick who studied a
Clearly,
lot of weird
I
history
say that with
and religion
much
and all that kind of stuff.
conversation.
True.
Hmm.
And having to be like, oh shit, what's that? But then also having those little nods, like we're gonna have to hop into, because we're like 30 minutes of the show we haven't yet, but AXEL'S INFERNAL, like Sammy the truck
Hmm.
is Samael. And I was like,
Indeed, she is. Yes.
oh,
Yeah, that was cool.
fabulous. Yeah, all of these little connections that you drop in here and there, and some of them are like, just whoo.
And
But
some of them are
for a
just
lot of people,
fun.
I'm
Like,
assuming that's some, yeah.
yeah, the
And some of them were looking up like, is that real or did he just make that up?
yeah, some of there's that too. But like you probably noticed the in the first issue, the old guy, that she rips the pearls off from is Ed Warren, so named after the Warrens, the famous couple from Connecticut who investigated the supernatural,
Yep.
and then
Uh-huh.
and Clancy, who is in the second issue, is the cook, is named after another
Yeah.
supernatural, investigator or spiritualist, rather,
Right.
I should say.
Thank
So,
you.
there's things you can sort of populate,
Well,
through there, quite well. But thank you. You should read I don't know if you ever read the Marvel Age interview on the Midnight Suns, where it was me and Chris Cooper and Howard Mackey and Len Kaminsky. Is probably one of the best interviews, like especially about the genesis of the Midnight Suns. There's some great. I've returned to that now and again, and that's a great like touchstone of when we were all super jazzed about it. And I could tell you the one moment we all knew it was going to fall apart, which was like in a subsequent group meeting where we all got together to plan the next whatever big event or crossover, and we all pitched some crazy idea or whatever it was, and the reply from editorial was, "Oh, that's too sci-fi horror," and we all looked at each other and we were like, you do know what we're writing here, right? What we're creating. It's a book called The Midnight Suns with a demon on a motorcycle and a
yep.
chemically induced vampire and a
Yep.
bunch of other vampires and evil book from hell and so on and so forth. But it was just
Rise of
the,
the
the
Lilin.
the massive disconnect between what we thought we were doing and clearly what the editorial group then was looking for was just so vast, that you sort of knew the writing was on the wall at that point, even though
Yeah.
it lasts a while to go.
Yeah.
That was my favorite thing when I talked to you when I was asking about stuff, and you were just like that you had a friend who approached you because you happened to have hit on something from an ancient text that had only recently been translated, and the access to it was so limited that they were just so surprised you did it, and you're like, I made that up. Like, totally
I,
made up lore that was thousands of years old in
yeah, sometimes you maybe
and
you
just
key
nailed
into
it.
something, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, your brain knows where to go. You just wove around past the barriers, and hit
Right.
on the exact right
Right.
thing to do.
I often find that there's a lot of things, especially in movies and whatnot. They're like, "Oh, this great moment." Like, yeah, we improvised that. There was no script. I was like, I just went with it. Like, so I just, metaphorical hat to you, sir. Just I was like, made that up. Cool, thank you.
Well, you can get, and I think as for me at least, as time's going on, that's a much better freeing attitude. I mean, I would I would always do my research, but sometimes I would try to hew too closely to the specifics of it.
Yeah,
Whatever character was or character's name, which might be really great in the original Greek, but actually you can't pronounce it, at all. But I would still be very devoted to it. Now I think if you just sort of fuel yourself up on a bunch of influences and then run with it and be damned if somebody calls you on it later.
right.
Don't stop the momentum just because that isn't that exact thing that the Aztec hell did. Does it feel good? Well, then let's run with it.
Yeah.
How do they know? Have they actually been there?
Well,
Like they might have
yeah,
studied it, but there's a chance that they were wrong. That a little thing could be a fly dropping that changes the entire mode of the text.
yeah,
You know,
and honestly, it doesn't matter because no matter what you do, somebody's going to hate it, and somebody's going to call you on it, and somebody's going to say, "Well, that's not right." So you may as well do something that you're just feeling right
Word.
about, and let it take over from you, because
Well,
then you're kind of onto something.
and those somebodies are going to have a drunk squirrel who can wield a lightsabers showing up at their house in the middle of the night,
for
saying,
sure.
"So,
Exactly.
you messing
Exactly.
with my friend Chichester there?"
Well, and it's funny that you guys say that because I remember a story. I think it was when James Gunn was starting to work on Guardians, and he
Hmm.
had written a pitch, and I think he was talking to a fellow creator, and he was like, "Yeah, this is okay, but it's not like great. Like it's basically he was trying to write it like he thought Marvel would be. It's like, how would you write it? Like, what is
Yeah.
your pitch?" And James Gunn did his pitch. When I think he came back an hour later, this is pitch, and the guy was like, "I would see this movie.
Right.
This is the
Right.
movie you should make." And as
Right.
we all know, that's what he went with, and the rest is history. So, like you
Hmm.
said, you can be aware of the playground you're playing in, but you play your own game. You do what
No,
makes sense to you.
that's a perfect way to put it, because you can second guess yourself out of anything by trying to conform to a different system. You're going to keep it within the sandbox, the playground, whatever, but do it your own way. um
Well,
that's where the best results are going to come from.
absolutely. So I think that's just kind of what it is. And then especially kind of if we can, Carrie, like you said, we're already halfway in, so let's segue to seeing where you're going to go with
This
Axel's.
playground.
And yeah,
Hmm.
well, speaking of, I definitely want to touch on Axel's Infernal because reading. First thing, thank you again. It's been a minute since I've ever read a script from a creator, and
Hmm.
it was just such a trip because again, you realize every creator has a different style.
Yeah.
Like, and I just reading yours, like I knew exactly the references. Like, oh my God, the way you were describing the diner was just fantastic. Just this just awful greasy spoon, but
May
I was, like I
may I?
kind of, what happened?
Oh, may I
Uh,
quote from the script real quick? The
sure.
Yeah,
intro to
go
this
for it. Yeah, knock yourself out.
What do
panel
you think, Carrie?
2. Introduction: neon hog slop. Creepy, like the kind of diner truck stop you'd think twice about wanting to actually go get something to eat in. But not Adam's Family mad, more Devil's Reject, Rob Zombie worrisome, flies, smears, stains, smells. If there's a place for it, there's a sign on the wall. Therefore, behoveth him a full long spoon that shall eat with a fiend.
Well done, Carrie. Uh, And and
Yeah,
then and then when they were done, they had drinks the titty twister from dusk till dawn. So I
exactly.
mean,
I should have dropped that, in there. And then now that's the almost too clever by half, but I don't think I wrote it into the script. But Neon Hog Slopped, which is the name of the diner, is actually an anagram from that quote. So if you
nice.
if you rearrange it, it becomes part of that piece that you just read out, Carrie. But I did not call overt attention to it.
Oh,
there.
okay, got it.
Yeah,
So-
but
Yep.
it was just, again, reading it. I
Clever.
mean, I was even like asking Carrie, I was like, this is a reference, like, the waitress. I was like, and Carrie, and, again, and I'm a fan of mythology. So I was like, there's so many characters and so many different mythologies. It's hard to keep
Yeah.
track how y'all explain the world. Damn it.
Kikimora is that little gal up there in the top right. She
Yep.
is she is a Slavic swamp spirit, although I believe, although she appears to be Japanese with a fan at the same time.
Yeah. We Carl
But-
mixed it up. Didn't mix it up, like not get it right. I mean, he decided to kind of like tweak it, but that's
Yeah.
exactly
There-
where you're kind of going. There's a Japanese water spirit,
Yeah.
water imp as well. So I think it's probably more based upon that in a way.
And it was funny because the way that you had Necros talking to Percy and Virgil, to me, kind of reminded me of when Dean from Supernatural would talk to Death.
Mm-hmm.
Just that kind of this is the way things are going to go. You are trying to subvert what is with what you want, and I'm humoring you, even though you are basically a flea to me. So it's like, this is essentially, it's like, hi, this is my show. You're a part of it. So you either go along or there'll be, pun intended, hell to pay. So choices, milkshake. What?
Right. I drink your milkshake. And oddly enough, I am aware of Supernatural, and for whatever reason, it's a show I've never watched.
Neither.
And I know it's been on, it was on for like 14, 20 seasons or something.
Yeah.
Like that. So, but I know it's good stuff. So I take what you said as a huge positive. Like,
oh yeah, totally. And just for the side note, because my friends who hooked me on it would say, just watch the first 5 seasons and then make up your mind about the rest. But just the first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dan warning. I watched the first 19 episodes, and that still wasn't the first season, and I gave up on it after that. I thought 19 episodes of something, but everybody loves it, so I didn't stick it out long enough. It's one of those things.
Yeah, well, that's the issue with CW shows. It's like 26 episodes a season or whatnot.
That's the old days. That's what TV seasons used to be. Now we get episodes and it's a season. It's done.
Yeah.
But
nope. No. But it was just great, and I'm so glad. Personally speaking, I'm so glad to see more of AXEL'S. It was such a great. It was such a great book, and I was just like, this idea is so fucking good. And just reading it, I was like, man, let's go. Issue 3, let's go.
Well, let's get issue 2 out there. Let me do a little preamble on it, because I don't know that, everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. So just so folks have a grounding as we kind of maybe dig a little deeper into this particular hell. AXEL'S INFERNAL will be a 5-issue series. And that's the goal for it. But it's the story of Percy Cross, who's a bit of a drifter, a bit of a grifter. She's not a very good person when we first meet her. But she's going to get shanghaied into something called the Underworld Transportation Authority and become a co-driver, a trucker, along with a veteran driver named Virgil Shift. And what the Underworld Transportation Authority does is they deliver different parts of hells, plural, to Earth, because the conceit is that there is not just one hell, Dante's Inferno, Satan, that sort of thing. Every culture, in fact, does have a hell. Like there's an Aztec hell, there's an Egyptian hell, there's a Mesopotamian hell, there's a Japanese hell, all with their own mythologies, all with their own demons, all with their own sufferings and such. There's a Barker hell somewhere, but we're not going to touch that IP. But there's a belief system, behind them. If you believe in that hell, you're a big dog, right? Dante's Inferno, runs the mall, down there. But if you're less known, you're slipping into oblivion. So what those hells want to do is they want to get those pieces of themselves to Earth so that people will believe in them more. The more they believe in hell, the more metaphysical energy they have. So these truckers have been ganged into service. There's also a maritime division and an aircraft delivery division. We don't get into those as much, but we touch on them. But these guys have to deliver hell and and supposedly after time they could be free of their servitude. But since they work for that guy that we're seeing there with the flaming head, who is Necro's terminal, the chief dispatcher for North America, the chances of them getting out of this are slim and none. But that's Percy's mission, is to get herself the hell out of this and hopefully be a redeemed character in the course of this story, to some degree. And it's a big world. The reason we embraced finally doing it. It's something Carl Waller, who's the penciler and inker on this, came up with the conceit a long time ago, but it expands out actually beyond this storyline to many short stories, to other big stories, and there's an ultimate conclusion. I know where this goes. I know where this ends, which is pretty cool. And so we want to, very much bring this to life in any way possible. And so that's what we've been talking about, kids. Just so everybody listening and watching knows. Did I do that justice?
Yeah.
For those who've read,
Wonderful. Could have done better.
It's almost like I work on it,
Yeah.
What I really enjoyed about this, and we're seeing some of the pictures here, some of the images. We got to read the script because we're special, and we're happy about it. And I love how Percy went from being kind of this tough gal to Necros just put her in her place, like hard. He just dropped this, you expect the like sassy heroine who goes through and does everything, and I'm a tough gal to come through. And no. Oh, you didn't do that at all. And I was so happy to see that not turn into a trope, for her to actually be humanized immediately when she gets into this. And that was wonderful.
That's good. And it's really kind of hello, Corpse Garden. It's important for the story, I think. And I'd said to Carl, while we wish we'd done the story maybe a long time ago, I think I would have approached this much differently, maybe with more of those tropes in mind, Carrie, if I had done it at that point in time. And this allowed itself to kind of come to life and bring itself along. And because Percy is such a wise ass character, and she's got sarcasm, and she's got grit and self-service to herself as she goes through it. It needed that very hard moment, to turn the key on getting this started. So Necros, grabbing her and putting her what he puts her through, was sort of an organic but also very integral moment, to it.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny because when I was reading it, like I kind of imagined Virgil, and this is, I think, just because how it's written, and it's just so it felt very B movie-ish to me. Good. In a way. I kind of imagined like Virgil in my head, like my mind casted like Virgil is being played by Kurt Russell, like around like Big Trouble in Little China, especially. Yeah. So I'm just imagining like Kurt Russell driving like the Pork Chop Express, but it's Sammy, and this whole thing, because I'm just Virgil is charming. He knows the score. He's charming. He clearly has some edge to him, which you probably revealed over time. But he's just got that. He's the perfect guide. It's just like, listen, kid, these are the rules. I don't like them much less than you, but let's just make the best of it and maybe pick an apple pie up on the way. Okay, I just,
right.
Just like, listen, shit sucks. Could be worse, but then again, we have gas in the tank. Cigarettes, and probably you might have some fun along the way. So,
so a gas and a pair of sunglasses.
Yeah. But it's just, it was just so fun, just kind of just seeing more of the world that you and your collaborator are just working on. And like I said, I'm looking forward to more. That's my 2 cents.
No, well, listen, I mean, you guys are getting first exposure to that, and that's very encouraging to me to hear, because this is a very insular world that has not really been shared widely, right? Obviously, people back the first issue or have picked up copies, for me it may be a convention. They've been exposed to it, and you get reactions in that way. but
Mm.
especially the second issue, which really gets into the mechanics of this, of how hell works, or how these hells work, and how the UTA, the Underworld Transportation Authority, works. Really, I think brings it to life, and I think the work that Carl's done is extremely powerful. He's done a really great job, like hitting so many notes and playing off um, the weirdness, the fun of it in some cases, but then the ferocity, of things as well. So it hits in the right ways. So it's good to hear that we're not just fooling ourselves. We want to fool you too,
Oh,
I guess.
it's it's fabulous. The scene when they're like here, when Virgil's eating pie, Percy's what the
Mhm.
fucking, and
Right.
just
Yes.
being dropped into like, he made this little diorama out of like condiments and stuff to be like, and these are the different hells, and this is how it works, and everything sucks, and you're in it now. So
Yeah,
you either
exactly.
follow or you're out, and it's
Right.
like,
Right.
whoa, okay.
Yep.
I was just having a day, and the brutality. And folks, okay, you know me. I'm into the horror. I'm into like I'm constantly praising Philip Kennedy Johnson on like he's basically been pushing Nick Klein to make every single transformation of the Incredible Hulk into
Hmm.
a more and more and more horrifying thing, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But
Hmm.
but the absolute brutality that is used to bring Percy like into understanding that no, this isn't just something you can walk away from, that she's not just having a bad day or
Right.
can sneak out on her charisma, is I can't wait to see it. Like, that's
Hmm.
horrible to say almost, but then again, I'm the person who just a couple days ago my thing was popping up with like, oh yeah, your photos on this day, and they're like autopsy photos from Jack the Ripper stuff. But
There you go.
There you
Okay.
go.
like, oh, that's Catherine Eddowes. I would recognize her cuts anywhere.
That's
But
Hmm.
yeah,
funny.
it, that everybody knows me. Well, they should,
Yeah, they
'cause
should,
I'm fun.
and they should fear you. I mean, what? No.
Probably,
Um,
yeah, but no, it's beautiful everything that you have going, and the way that like you were talking last. It's been like a year because I just saw you like within the past week, as a year ago we had you on,
Well, that's
and
good. Time compresses in a good way that way. That's perfect.
yeah, but we were
there it
talking
is.
about that big splash page that you had described initially to Carl,
Right.
and it was like basically encompass every single hell you possibly can it
Hmm.
into this, and he kind of twisted it a little different way, but it turned out okay, and it looks like you guys have a really good working relationship now with how the art is going based on the descriptions of things and his
Yeah.
style and what
Yeah.
you have.
Absolutely. I mean, that was, and that's, I think, a good example, that first issue, and folks can get the first issue if you've missed it, as part of, one of the offerings or rewards, and such, with this new campaign when it launches. And right now we are in pre-launch. We'd love people just to go to that URL that you've seen on screen, or it will be in the show notes or wherever. It's if you go to AXEL'S INFERNAL.com or tinyurl.com/Axel's Infernal, it will get you there to the pre-launch. You're not committing to anything yet. You're just letting me know, letting Carl know you're digging this. Maybe you're going to get behind this when we do launch, hopefully soon.
Mm.
Um, but that spread, was really interesting, because Carl had basically vapor locked himself off, because it was such a big deal. Like, that was the big expanse. That was the real money shot, if you will, for the issue, that we were finally saying, this isn't just bad news. This is bad news, all capitals. And he had tightened himself off, that he didn't let himself go loose. It's a bit what you were saying at the beginning, Drew. He
Mm.
was second guessing everything. So the first version of that spread was perfectly serviceable, um, but it was not the book. It was like, oh, it's a truck and there's hell stuff, and it was like, but it felt very limited and very ordinary. So when he sent it to me, I was like, well, how do I get him going on this? And so I had to, I said, well, I saw the spread, and then his first words were, it sucks. I say, well, then what the fuck did you send it to me for? It's like, it, go ahead, Carrie.
I was just gonna say like notes. Like this is all I came up with. Give me notes. Tell me how to expand, I
Yeah.
guess would be what I would yeah.
But it was him. He knew it wasn't what it should be. It wasn't me being judgy and being like in control. Like, it was,
Yeah.
he knew it wasn't what it had to be, but he chose to kind of let himself get restricted. And then, I rewrote the spread, to open it up, like to add more detail, throw more things there. At first I kind of like been narrowing it to try to give him as much license as possible, but instead then I fire hosed a little bit of what it could be. And then he went to town, and that was, him sort of taking off the blinders and the restrictions and just letting it flow for himself. And then when he sent it to me the second time, I was like, well, welcome back to the book, Carl. um, you know, Again, that's not a negative on Carl in any way, shape, or form. He's doing, yeoman's work, but it's sometimes you can second guess yourself out of stuff.
Right.
And and it just shows what a great relationship you have with your artists, that they're willing to be like, I'm stuck. This is what I got. This is best I can do. Let me know. And you can tell
And
them. And
you should always
it's
do that.
shown. Yeah.
Mhm.
A lot of times it's like, oh, we don't have time. Somebody's on a schedule, got to do this. And it's done,
Right,
and
right. But you should never be, and Carl sometimes has, other people, sometimes have. I guess sometimes I have too. If you're collaborating with somebody, you have to have that open, exchange, because you will always get stuck, right? You're always going to get stuck in something, and you need to use that partnership to draw like something else out. I don't know where to go with this. I don't know what to do with this. And sometimes that person will push in the right direction or validate something that you bring up. Like, this doesn't feel right to me. You're right, it doesn't feel right. So fix it.
what can I do to show you what I think? Okay,
Yeah,
here's what I think you should do.
yeah,
Back and forth are good.
right.
Now, I know the time frame isn't set in stone, but what are you looking at for optimal time frame?
To launch it, to actually go to launch, Leo. I mean, I would have liked to have launched it by now. I'll be quite honest with you. And I had said to Carrie, when we started talking about the show, and coming on, we made it over the funding line on issue 1, but just barely. And I had launched it. We had launched it, with about 50 people sort of signed up in pre-launch, and so I'd like more numbers. But on the other hand, I'm sort of starting to feel like, all right, at what point does this just become like it's just hanging out there? The funding number is going to be lower than the first one was, probably by quite a bit. So we're more likely to fund, and then once you fund, Kickstarter will push you up in the algorithm a bit more. So I'm trying to balance that out, but ideally I'd like to do something within the next month and a half or 2 months, at the most, just to kind of get this beast going.
Nice.
And as far as what you have to do, it's already pretty much ready to go, isn't it? Are you just waiting
Yeah, I mean,
to?
it's all, Carl has totally finished it. It's totally illustrated from a black and white point of view. He's actually jumped ahead and had Wes Wong, who's the colorist, color about, I think, 8 to 10 pages. So it's almost halfway colored. Wes is very fast. That's not an issue. And then Pat, Brousseau, who's our letterer, has indicated his availability. He's got other assignments, but he can juggle things, and that's not going to delay it. So we are, for all intents and purposes, done with the creative. So no one's going to have to worry about, well, will this book be done? It's only a matter of execution, and by that I mean printing. And we used a good printer last time. Now with tariffs and whatever the hell else is going on with the world, printing costs are going to be different, weird, but we'll figure that out, and then be able to fulfill. And I'm looking at a couple of different reward things as well, which I'll poll this group here. We've got what I would expect to be the typical things: the book, obviously, the art, the script with the book. But somebody suggested like trading cards and maybe metal trading cards. Is that anything that's like an interesting sort of reward, type of thing, or is that just this other guy feeding me what he likes?
Okay. I cover the
Well,
crowdfunding segment here, and I will introduce you at some point to Carissa Grant, who
yeah.
I'm showing her stuff off tonight. She has like 103 add-ons to her current 47 tier rewards
Okay.
Kickstarter, because she has plushies and stickers and magnets and metal pins and metal cards and metal covers and neon metal covers and stuff
Oh,
for every single thing.
okay.
She has coins. She has anything, like she has. Leo, you need to get, by the way, there's a giant like huggable Sasquatch figure that she has, like
Oh, tell me
Okay.
a
Adorable.
Bigfoot, yeah, but she puts out the most add-ons and stuff. And yes, I do have metal trading cards,
Mhm.
and I do have regular trading cards. I prefer the
Mhm.
metal because obviously they aren't going to break or bend or get,
Right. Right.
snagged or
Right.
anything.
Right.
It depends on how much you're going to charge for them, or if you're making them something that comes as a stretch goal that some people will get, because it's like with Carissa, I'm building I'm when I get a house, she gets a room of all of the
Awesome.
stuff that I
Okay.
bought from this
Okay.
woman.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but it's like I'm into her comics, so I want to have those things. If people put out, I notice for a lot of the really big comics, it's something that some
Mhm.
people will put out trading cards. I don't notice the metal as much.
Yeah.
Smaller indie companies do metal more, and it
Mhm.
is a worthwhile value, but you need to make sure that it's on what your people want. Like offer it as an
Yeah.
add-on, and then maybe
Mhm.
in the next campaign, like have regular trading cards and metal ones, see which one goes better. And then on the
Yeah.
next campaign, maybe make those part of a stretch goal type of thing.
Right. Right.
Um,
No, good
would
suggestion. Yeah.
would be an indication for me, because you need to find people that they're very cool. Like it is
Yeah.
really cool to get those metal trading cards. So it is something that's cool, but they're made of metal, so they're expensive to print. That's the one
And
downside to
right, and
it.
then it increases your shipping costs because they're
yeah.
heavier and so
Well,
forth. But
you
it's
know what
Yeah.
you can do though also is like for the trading cards, definitely, I love them for the art. Like Terrificon's doing special trading cards this year
Mhm. Mhm.
for their event. I already pre-ordered a bunch. But yes, I did, Drew.
I did too. He's not alone. He
But
ordered more than
but the metal ones, I mean, it's tough to see the art on them. So maybe, think
Yeah.
about, how the metal could be used as like a storytelling element or something like that. But I would say, if you come up with a cool design, have it as like a chase, like, throw them in so many packs. Um,
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Okay. Oh, that's so it's almost like, not exclusive, but like, yeah, it's like a little bit of a buy three packs. You're more likely to get one of these special like cards or
exactly.
something like
Yep.
that.
or make little like enamel or metal pins
Hmm.
are always good, because you can get those out. Those I think usually people charge only like $5 for, so they must be making at least back what they're charging for them. Or magnet stickers. Stickers, people are, it is a weird thing, but I like them for like to put on my laptop and stuff, and people will do
Yeah,
that.
stickers are easy. The pins, I love pins.
Bookmarks.
Yeah, bookmarks.
Pins,
Pins are
pins are
cool, but
great if you're
they're
making a jacket or
right. But they're
patches.
tough to package with stuff because that can damage, the
That
the odd shape can put an indentation in, say, a poster, a piece of artwork, or the comic itself. So you have to
yeah.
be careful about the way you're packaging it. So more
And you
careful.
use Gemini mailers for the books, right?
I did. I did the first time. I would continue to do that. It's just better. I think people should get their money's worth and sort of feel like we've taken some care in packaging it up and putting it together.
Oh, I love those, because then when I get them in, I can save them, and then if I have anything I'm sending somebody else, I have
Exactly.
this like
Exactly.
they're perfect for remailing. I like I was gonna
Yeah.
be like, I have these to
I
show you guys if you don't know what a Gemini mailer is, but I moved them all over there. So, but
I
they're
got
very perfect.
they are. They're high
Ah,
quality mailers. They're very protective. So folks, if you end up backing us, you will get your comic and goodies in a Gemini mailer, which is perfect not only for receiving but also for saving and, as Carrie said, sending on the next one. My wife tried to throw some of mine out that I had gotten from some Kickstarter things I had backed. I was like, no, don't do that. It's just a box.
I need those.
I recently threw a bunch away, and I know I should,
Oh,
but yeah, trying to declutter a bit. So
yep. Well, that's an admirable goal.
One other thing that I suggest that I personally just love it, and I know that I can do it at home myself. And you're doing this. Is this a normal sized comic? I can't remember if it's.
It's the
For some
size
reason
of a
it's
current comic, 6.2
it's like,
something, and by 9 point whatever. Yeah,
do you bag and board when you send them? I can't remember. I got
I
the
do.
last one. I just
Yep,
can't remember.
yep,
Okay.
yep. I try to make it like, again, what should people, when you're doing your own comic and you're doing it through Kickstarter, um, you can't price it, at $3.99 or $4.99. You've got to like increase the price. So I think the individual issues end up being, I think last time it might have been $15, almost, which is pricey, but it is sort
But
of
it was gorgeous.
right. But I want to make sure people are getting, feeling like you're getting a premium package and experience, with what they're getting. And we did high end, we did nice covers, we did nice stock, we did nice printing. We went back to the printer a couple times to make sure, some errors, were that other people might not have noticed, were corrected. You put out the product that you want to receive, right? I mean, that's the care you try to put in, because I think ultimately crowdfunding like this, at its most crass, I'm just asking you to buy my comic, which I am. Let's be honest. But I mean, on the other hand, I'm asking you to invest in building this world with us. And that's something I think that is that in that co-conspirator sort of way, you want people again to feel like they're getting something for what they're putting in.
well,
Right.
also it's something that you've already invested in. So many Kickstarters, you're worried about, well, will they finish? The book isn't even written yet, or
Right.
they're looking for an artist. It's you with your stuff, it's already just about ready to go. Which
Yeah,
is
no, thank
takes the
you,
worry
Leo. Yeah, that is a big point. I mean, the first one when we launched it, it was all done. Um, Thank you very much, Wolf. I would hope you'd check it out and let me know what you think of it.
Yeah.
That was all done when we launched the campaign. The whole thing was done. Like, it was only really waiting for, like, like, give us the money so we could print it and pay Wes and Pat. And we had already paid Wes and Pat. We were kind of recouping our costs on that, actually. So
I think
this
it's
one is, there you go. Shut up and fund this Kickstarter. Exactly. Like, yeah, what more do you want? We're not funding yet again. I'm looking for some, interest, but hopefully we'll have that funding going very soon. But yeah, there's no risk that this is not a comic that will not happen. I was talking to a retailer, a well-known retailer, as a matter of fact, and he was saying he was really down on Kickstarter comics because he had been burned, a number of times by backing things, and then it just never happened. So I sent him mine. I said, well, I did it, so back my next one. But
There
he
you
didn't
go.
get back to me.
and it's weird. Like I back a lot of kicks. I'm one of the like big backer people, even though I'm on a very limited income. But I try to, even if I can only get like a digital thing or something, I try to help back.
Sure.
And I'm building my next apartment out of, Kickstarter boxes.
Gemini boxes, right? Yeah.
They're very sturdy.
Yeah.
But you get these wonderful things in the Gemini boxes, and you get like yours are bagged and board. Some aren't, some aren't. It depends on what you get. Some are wrapped in tissue paper or different things. But then I've gone ahead also and ordered a comic from like the site where I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to. I don't want to offend anyone. But
Okay.
a very specific comic book. It was like a comic book made for an ongoing show type of thing, and written by a great comic author, done by some great artists. Um, it was shipped from their site, and
Mm-hmm.
it was in like a crappy foldable thing. It was bent,
Ew.
like with visible bends in it, and like the edges were kind of like the corner, the top,
Right.
the spinal edges were like frayed a little bit and stuff. And I'm like, I spent like $15 to get this, and if I spend the
Mm-hmm.
same amount on some other people's Kickstarters, I get a book in good condition and better quality than this, and a
Mm-hmm.
couple extras, like I get a
Mm-hmm.
PDF of it as well, and I get these things. And so I'm always telling people, like, go check out the Kickstarters, man, because it helps make a dream happen. And everything that you do, once it goes beyond funding, it just helps make the
Mm-hmm.
book better,
Yeah.
and you get better things off. Like you in particular, if there's somebody who's sending out things that are crap, I'm not going to like go talk about it, but I'm not going to advertise for them either,
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know?
No,
So,
you get out of it what you put into it, and I've tried to back comics, and I have back comics. They're like, wow, I'm jazzed about this, and some are
yeah.
extraordinary. The packaging. I did literally get a comic wrapped in tissue paper, in addition to bagged and boarded, and it was lovely. It was like an experience, like opening it up. It was just they had a handwritten card inside, and it made me feel like cheap and sleazy. I didn't do that, and it was that nice additional effect, and connection, to the creator, in that way.
Yeah.
So I was very pleased to have done that.
It's always nice to have one thing at least in your Kickstarter that they can only get through there.
Right.
So that, like, okay, you can later go on and purchase the comic. Like, if it gets big, like comic book companies can order huge amounts of Axel's Infernal, but there has to be something that they can only get through the Kickstarter that makes it like, okay, I ordered it, and you can go back and order, sometimes on things, but it's just like, well, I pledged for it here, so I got this, and I'm one of only this many people who is able to get it.
Who got that?
So
So what's
neener,
your
neener,
ideal, if
you
I was
know?
to add a reward like that, Carrie, and Drew and Leo, what would be, notwithstanding, the total Pornhub, not safe for work covers, which seem to be so, in effect, what would be like a reward that I should add to this? That is, wow, I gotta have that. I gotta feel good about wanting to throw this into my tier or whatever.
Well, it's definitely we're hitting the 90s again. It's I would say, what's big right now is like a variant cover. Get
Yeah,
a
yeah,
get
get
a
that.
a artist come in just to do a one-time special, variant
Right,
cover.
right. Yep. No, we did that first time around. I'm definitely planning on doing that again. But that's a great reminder. Cool.
I would say, and this is you already do scripts, but
Hmm.
having kind of it including in it some of the art and the back and forth, like maybe even just in a digital format, because
Yeah.
sending that out would be ridiculous. But having a digital format of some of the back and forth and the changes that were made, and
Hmm.
just so you can see the creation as it is being created, would
Yeah.
be a neat add-on to have. Like, you can only get you can put it on an add-on, or add it in a, like, if you buy a certain tier that has all these different things, you get that's part of it included. But having that like exchange, that so that you're really feeling like you're part of
Hmm.
the creation process, that would be very fun for me.
That would be cool. I did do that on the first one. I'm surprised you missed that, but I will do that again,
I,
definitely. That was a little
I will
more
have to
work
go
to put
back and
together, but I'm happy to send you one. So I will take care of
okay.
finding that for
Oh,
you. But
oh boy.
Oh,
you get a special bonus for the show.
Yeah.
Oh man,
thank you.
Carrie, look at you. But listen, Dan, whatever you're going to do is going to be absolutely fantastic. And I think again, I myself can't really speak to it, but I mean, if Carrie thinks it's a good idea, I'm like, okay, well, Carrie knows Kickstarter. She's our Kickstarter queen. She knows
Wonderful.
so much. She has a segment now where she advertises them for the show. So whatever you do, just again, what thing I've always go for, if I think it's cool, probably someone else might.
That's
So
good. Oh, that's good. I mean, listen, if and I,
Gee,
we've going back and forth. If it sucked, I'd want to hear that too. Honestly.
Yeah, no. Why would listen? Why would we lie? You've been nothing great to us. Why would we lie? That's just dumb. No.
We'll tear you down.
T-shirts are
Are
great
they?
too.
Are they?
Oh my
Okay.
God, I collect so. I'm gonna take it one of these days. I have to go, like, after I have laundry day. I'm gonna have like a series of photographs on my Facebook page, because I still Facebook, because yeah, and there's gonna be like 50 black t-shirts and like 4 heather gray ones that are going to show my entire like comic book and horror and death metal t-shirts that I
Right.
own
Right.
and stuff. So I love collecting t-shirts. Like I if there's a t-shirt and the book combo, like, do you like, okay, you buy
Yeah.
the book and the shirt and you get a PDF for free, and the shirt's available over here by itself for whatever is an add-on. I'm buying that combo. You just have to make sure that the shirts can be larger sized, because sometimes it costs more to make a shirt a slightly larger size, but people who only go up to X large are forgetting America exists.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
many of us are not just an extra large or more,
Right.
they need.
Right. Right. Give yourself
And
some options. Yeah. Totally.
Exactly.
yeah, and you can send those out. You can order those like through tons of different places. Like, you can do TeePublic, so it's made to order, and you just get them
Yeah.
from them and send them on to your people. And
Right.
you might not make a huge amount of profit from it. You can get better ones if you don't do TeePublic as far as profit goes, but it's something else that grabs attention, and then somebody's walking around advertising you.
Totally. Totally.
Whenever I
Yeah.
go to Comic Cons, I'm wearing a shirt that advertises somebody or some show or some comic.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I'm anywhere, I'm always doing, like, right now I'm wearing Rough House Publishing.
There you
Yay!
go.
There you
Doesn't
go.
even
No, it's
hear it.
fabulous.
Well,
Yeah.
before we kind of come
We
to the end,
we need to go
is
to
that
Risk.
yeah, that's what.
No.
Thank you, Karen. I was going to get to that.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Sorry.
speaking of books that
Publishing.
are pushing the story, Risk was a fantastic issue one. Absolutely, really great to read. And like, how did that come up? Just like, what
Well,
was the idea for it?
I love this. I love the fact that you said it's a good read, because again, insular stuff, and you're like, was anybody gonna like this damn thing?
Oh,
This was a great summer for me, because this was the summer that CB Sobalski came up to me at Terrificon, and had said, "Do you want to do Black Armor? What would become Black Armor?" And then a short time after that, Dimitrios Zaharakis, who is the publisher and editor of Black Box Comics, came up and said, "Hey, remember me?" Graciously, because I had sadly ghosted this guy several years before, when I was heavily into just my advertising work, and he had been starting Black Box. His first comic, he had recruited Scott McDaniel. Demetrius was a big fan of the Fall from Grace work we had done. He had recruited Scott for a book and wanted to recruit me. And I sort of listened to what he had to say, and it was kind of an oddball idea. It was like, it's something about a psychologist. He's got an edge on people, and he does something. And I was like, well, that's not what I would expect to be like a jumping off point for a book. And I did do some research, and I got some psychology books, and but I just couldn't wrap my head around it. Not because it wasn't really a good angle. It was just because my headspace was occupied by what I was doing. I was too focused on that, frankly. But fortunately, Demetrios was a broader based character, and came back, when we saw each other in person at the show, and said, "Hey, I've got something new in mind. Would you be interested?" So fortunately, my head was clearer. And his pitch was, I want to do a book about a bookie, an odds maker, right? Which is like, okay, where are you going with this? I've recognized his sort of geniuses, like just oddball ideas. And she's got some kind of telepathic power or whatever. And she can see, into people's minds. So she's always got the edge on them in terms of odds. And she's got a heart of gold, but she's a little bit seedy. And she's going to get pulled into some kind of heist. And the heist is going to go wrong. And, hijinks ensue. That was kind of like his angle. And I was like, well, let me think about that for a while. and a while wasn't that long. It was probably about a week, maybe 2 weeks later, that this had morphed in my mind to, well, what if we push this into the future? What if it's this kind of cyber, thriller or whatever? What if instead of telepathic powers, she's got some kind of AI instance in her head that lets her see the angles and the strategies? And what if that has come about because there was this horrible instance in the world, which we call the melt, where a bacteria gets released from the Arctic, and it's meant to solve climate crisis, and instead causes this ancient bacteria to really melt people. It's like a sort of a flesh-eating disease, and the only way people can sort of recover their mobility and some of their features, in fact, is by grabbing off-the-shelf technology, which in the future is kind of everything's got a little bit of AI in it. So you grab an off-the-shelf appliance and you turn it into a new arm. It's a bit shoddy, it's a bit makerspace hacked together, but it gives you what you need back. Well, Ruby Chance, our main character, that bookie, she gets this whole extra boost, this AI in her head that actually talks to her, which is the Risk persona. So all this just kind of came off of that springboard that Demetrios had. And why does it come off in that way? I don't know. It just starts springboarding out. And while it was a much different idea that he had originally put forward, he embraced it. He said, "We're not doing anything else like this. Let's run with this." And in fact, while this property is owned by Black Box, I'm the co-creator on it. So, this has something I have a little bit of a stake in, which is nice, to have. And it's just been this fun ride. It's been this sort of morphing in its own way, because in my original writing, and I think in the original way that Demetrios and I had thought about it, we were saying this is really gritty. We don't want anybody to talk about this like it's a cyber book. But Mannix-Francisco, the artist, made it look like this incredible cyber book. It's super sleek. It's dystopian. The future's got a lot of problems, but he gave it this whole sheen that was not what I expected. But once you sort of saw it, you kind of you learn to embrace it. You just go, let's go with it. Let's run with it. It actually kind of gives some aspects of the story a little bit more of a hopeful spin, which I quite enjoy now. And that's again a thing I like about the comics process so much, is you get that back and forth you don't always expect. So this first issue is the introduction of everything. We get the whole sense of what's going on, and from this point forward, over the 5 issues this series will run, we'll learn more about the world, more about what Ruby's relationship is with Risk, and what what she can do with that power, as it were, inside her head.
So Ruby, okay, the character we're seeing here, the female, is
Yep.
She is pretty much the main character, and
She is.
she has with okay, so she works for, they have the company that she does all of her booking through and creates the odds for, is also called Risk, but
Right.
the AI inside of her
Persona.
head
Hmm.
is Risk as well.
Right. Because what we'll find out is, before the melt happened, before that incident happened, um, you know, when the world was still in one piece, as it were, Ruby had been developing an algorithm to predict strategies. So she was starting her own kind of software company, and the algorithm was called Risk, and she was planning to sell it to businesses and worldwide organizations, and make a mint from them licensing, her very smart, very predictive algorithm. So she had created this whole thing. And when the world went to shit, and she had to get these augments, her own arm had to be replaced, part of her face had to be replaced, a little bit of her torso, is replaced. You see her full frame. For some reason, um, that activated this algorithm that was in her brain, and then she just continued this,
Oh,
this moving forward. She wasn't she had been, as we'll discover throughout the course of the series, she had been an odds maker before, but on her own, sort of like a side business. It was a way to kind of like make some buck. And that was financing her software company, and that was her plan to kind of, take over the world, in a way. But so she had that edge, but now when the world fell apart, she couldn't depend on the business world anymore. Everything was going to shit. So she could no longer sell Risk. She could no longer pursue those goals. So she had to fall back on this odds making, to make a buck in this very troubled world. So she has a crew of odds makers in this Risk operation. But what nobody else knows and makes her seemingly unique is that, her AI isn't just, well, the arm functions or the leg functions or my jaw functions or whatever. She's got a persona inside her head that gives her an ability, again, to see 10 strategic angles on any situation and really predict the odds, but also gives her some control over her autonomic, uh, body functions. So she can control how fast her heart beats, how much oxygen she needs to take in, what her adrenaline levels are, and so forth. So she can physically get a little bit of an edge on the situation as well. And that will itself also evolve over time and the story.
Leo, can you go back a couple of pages real quick? I'll tell you when to stop. Um, I, eh, there's one where she's looking in here. Okay, this might not be exactly the thing. It's showing the different. Oh, maybe it's further, but okay. In any case, there's the vision of Ruby as she looked before she became Risk, or before Risk was added to her. And at some point, she's like looking in a mirror reflection of herself, and she's like, and the Risk part is talking to Ruby with, I don't know who that is. And it's like,
Right.
oh, this was before you. So they have completely separate sets of memories up until Risk was developed. So, or Risk was, I suppose it would be more initiated or started, put online. So does it sounds like it's going to be a very complicated relationship. Like Risk is just like, okay, I'm here and this is how life goes now. But Ruby still has the like, I had an entire life before
Oh
this
yeah.
happened.
Right.
So
Absolutely. And so no, it's a great observation, Carrie, and hopefully I've threaded that needle, well. I think I have, but um, Risk exists in Ruby's head, and Risk is her advisor, and Risk is her, whatever, concierge, and her, her again, her strategic edge. And and Ruby will ask, in the dialogue between them, what's the situation here, what are we looking at? And Risk can, say, well, I noticed in this scene, for example, the engine's sputtering, you know 2 degrees too hot. That means that particular motorcycle in this race is going to fail. Or that guy's twitching, he's hopped up on whatever. He's probably not the best driver to put the bet on, that sort of thing. But they don't exist in each other's mind. They're not a fusion. So for Risk, this is what she was made to do, right? She was made to predict odds. She was made to sort of see the situations and advise on them. That's what the algorithm that birthed her, that initiated her, was always there. um, but for Ruby, it's a voice in her head. It's like it's now I have to occupy my space with this thing that's always there. And yes, it's doing good for me. It's helping my business run. It's helping me act like I'm the supreme odds maker, even though I was pretty good before. Now I'm 1,000 times better, and nobody knows why. But Ruby also knows on her own, this is not the thing to let out, right? This is not the thing to let people know, oh, hey,
right.
I've got a super powered, advisor in my head, because in this broken world, people will take advantage of it. And that's just simply knowing that Ruby is so good at what she does is what's going to draw our antagonist to her, because he's going to want to recruit her to advise on his
Yeah.
nefarious plan.
The yet to be named the client who is
Right.
testing her as we go. And
Yes.
another thing I wanted to ask you, are we going to see more, because the melt happened and destroyed people, and this is
Yeah.
why a lot of them have the steampunk slash cyber upgrade things going on.
Yep.
But there are a lot of people that are just can't afford to have any upgrades done to them. So are we going to see more of the people who the melted that weren't able to upgrade? Is that going to be like that chunk of society that lives on the outside of things? Is that going to be is that going to be relevant to the rest of the story? Because it's
Did I
horrific
send you
that
did I send you all the scripts? It's like by accident. No, yeah, it's a great
no,
no,
I'm just
it's a primo question, and and I'm glad you're asking it, because it sort of says to me, you're intrigued by the
it
world a little
excites
bit.
me. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh yeah.
absolutely. In fact, in the next issue, or I believe it's the next issue, 3 at the most, um, we're going to meet Ruby's mentor, the one who sort of taught her all about odds making before the melt. And that particular person, that particular character, uh, was either too far gone in the melt, or couldn't afford it, as you said, in any way, shape, or form. And so we're going to meet her, and we're going to understand there's a whole sub society of the melted, who never could get the fixes, or didn't get the fixes in time. And so they sort of exist on the outskirts of this society, where, they're disfigured, they're disabled. But because of what this person means to Ruby, she still keeps a relationship up, and, will in fact draw some, good counsel from that person, that woman, uh, when they meet again in the course of the story.
Very cool.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
that
So
that excites me too, because I don't just want to see like this happened, everything was sad. Now we're gonna go to the happy people. I like having the
no,
like this
it's
affected
not
the
a
whole world. You gotta remember it. So I
right,
love
right.
that.
And in fact, it's only if you have a kid, of like, probably, I think in our timeline this happened like 7 years ago or something. And so if a child has been born since then, those children will be whole, but everybody else
Oh,
is damaged goods, because of what happened. Everybody was affected in one form or another. They were either completely wiped out, completely, so melted, as it were, that they died, or they were disfigured and couldn't be fixed, or they were disfigured and were able to find, some ability to get something stitched into their bodies, to kind of go on. Um,
oh, so then
as
it
most
brings up the question, if you were born okay after the fix, but you have the chance to upgrade yourself better than human, are you going to go ahead and do that? Are parents going to do that with their children? Obviously, they probably have to wait until they've aged to the point where they're done growing, but
right,
just
right.
throwing that at you. That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something we touch on. I mean, we touch on the idea that, while the augments or replacements were just meant to simply stabilize and get people mobile, right? Like, I need to walk, I need to be able to grab things, I need to see, I need to not have a, I need to have a lower jaw, or whatever. Um, that was the initial instance, but we do touch upon the idea that people, um, once they realized they could get these augments, well, maybe they wanted to pay extra for upgrades, right? Maybe I want the legs that run a little faster. Maybe I want the
Mhm.
arm that can punch through, walls or something like that. So that's a choice that then people, start to make, because now they've got these replacement parts anyway. I may as well have the tougher one or the faster one, which creates, its own inequity. Now the kids thing, um, I mean, none of these things are meant to be pretty. Even Mal Korvax, who is the client, the antagonist, um, he's part of like an elite group. He's, what we call the primes, the oligarchs, the people who still have money even in this broken world. His augments are fancier and slicker, and so are his contemporaries. But it's still screwed up, right? I'd rather have my eyes than have like this Cylon, a fixture to me. No matter how sleek it looks, it's
Yeah.
still, an intrusion on myself.
Unless
Yeah.
you're Geordie LaForge, though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he scrapped his. He's like, I don't need these anyway. Just go with my super awesome
Banana clips. I broke
Right.
so many of those with this hair. It was like click and it break. Okay,
And it breaks.
done.
There you go.
So
But-
Drew liked it. Did you like it, Carrie? I mean, I take it you
What?
did. You got some
Yeah.
digging into it. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Oh, I'm ready to I have scripts I'm gonna start pitching you soon on just random stuff, just because I hope you'll listen.
Oh
You'd be
yeah, she
like,
has.
what's that?
Yeah, and then she has one that she's been working on for a while. That when she pulls off, it's going to be really great. I'm not going to lie. I'm
Awesome.
not trying to hype, but it's definitely something that she would be like, "Oh my god, I'm going to send it to Dan and send it. Just send it already. God, what's the worst he'll say? Is it needs work? God."
I mean, my one rule, with people who, is respect. If you ask me for my opinion, I will give it to you. And I've been down the road where I've said that, and people actually don't want my opinion. They want.
The only reason you ask for someone's opinion is if you actually want to know it, and if you aren't doing what needs to be done, you need to know that you aren't doing what needs to be done.
Exactly.
You say that as a creative and mature person who wants to improve their craft. I cannot tell you the number of times, where somebody has said, "Well, I really like your thoughts on this," which really means you want me to praise it and
Right.
say, you're God's gift to writing or
That's
artwork or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
and
I would much rather have notes back that are like, this doesn't work this way. This is how this would happen, and this wouldn't happen at all.
Because it's a
right.
sign of
I mean, that makes you better. I mean, it makes you better. I mean, the first, I may have said this before, and I apologize if I'm repeating my limited number of stories, but when I first wrote AXEL'S INFERNAL, the first proposal for it, I sent it to my very good friend Greg Wright, who's an accomplished creator in comics, in his own, and his first three reactions were, this is great. This should be an HBO series. Fuck you for coming up with this before I did. And then 3, stop trying to impress people with how fucking well read you are. Like just like that and written just like that. And that's a problem, right? Your things are out of order. You're burying your lead. Like he was ruthless, like in tearing it apart. Like yes, it has something good here, but it's like, and this doesn't work, 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 right? And that's what you have to be accepting of and want, because somebody who has a creative sensibilities that you trust is going to give that to you unabashed. But there are people who do not want to hear that. They want to hear, oh yeah, this is great. You know what you should just do? Change it to Baskerville instead of Times New Roman, and it'll be so much better, and that's all they want. And
I will tell you that.
and Baskerville is a better font than Times New Roman.
It is.
But you have to, you have to be. I mean, I consider myself a very tough critic of my own work. But I know once I give it to people, I was afraid to send Greg the actual written issues of AXEL'S, and he's read all 5 at this point, and because I was afraid he was going to say this really sucks, and if he said it really sucks, I would have to know it really sucks. There'd be no escaping that, and that was, but you have to be, and I know he would not sugarcoat it at all. You need somebody like that in your creative
Absolutely.
life, and you have to be accepting to that.
Well, no, what a great note to end on. So Dan, we've taken up more than enough of your time. So thank you so much for joining us. But oh yeah, but Carrie, we're already running behind.
Well, give if you have a second or two to give to the giveaways, do the giveaways.
Oh yeah. Right. I'm sorry, I forgot. Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My brain was like, that's me. I'm like,
Your brain was on the maker's mark. You know,
Yeah,
Clyde
yeah,
May.
that whiskey,
Clyde,
man.
Clyde
I-
May is a great bourbon to try, by the way, if you guys are into bourbon.
What is it?
Clyde May.
Clive May?
Clyde.
Clyde May.
Clyde May.
C-L-Y-D-E, May, which is an Alabama bourbon, but I highly recommend it. A little bit different. Anyway.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, Carrie, let's do the thing then.
I'm getting there. I gotta pull up. It doesn't want to share that one, so I need to highlight it and go back.
Any questions from the groups while folks have been on while we were waiting, or?
If anybody is watching, please ask the questions now.
Present. It's just this thing where every now and then it doesn't really want to share. Like it says it does, but it doesn't.
It's lying. It's like life. You know, it's setting you up for disappointment. It's promising you things, and then it's like.
It totally is. Okay. Yeah. Well, Leo knows what I'm talking about.
Oh, Carrie's gone.
Oh, yeah, we just lost your audio, Carrie.
Technology did not like her criticizing it.
No.
Okay, am I back?
Yeah, you're good. You got the upgrade.
Okay. What is going on?
Yep, she's melted.
Not now. Okay.
That's it. The story reality is hit too hard.
It is.
Your browser has blocked your screen. What? Present. Share screen. Share screen. Okay, I'm just going to have to read and you guys are going to have to trust me.
Okay.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
And we trust you. We trust you.
Spin it.
Okay. All right. So the first thing that we are going to be giving away is a copy of AXEL'S INFERNAL #1.
Woohoo! Good one.
And that is going to.
I feel like we should do the.
That is going to Wolf Sensei, Wolf Dojo.
Excellent.
All right.
Super. You want to get on the world? Now you are. Okay.
There you go.
Yes. Now you get to find out. All right. So the next one is the AXEL'S INFERNAL prize pack, an autographed 11x17 print poster of the issue #1 cover, a holographic sticker of the logo, and an autographed copy of the #1 script. This is going to. Tom Dog over at Brill Pro.
Hey,
nice.
Way to go, Tom Dog.
All right.
All right.
Hey, Tom.
And next we have an autographed Daredevil Black Armor collection.
Wow.
And
yeah.
Like I was looking all over for that. Like I'm going to be hauling my stuff around to get that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and she froze.
She froze. She doesn't want to give it away. She's giving it to herself.
Oh, sorry. She froze.
And it is.
You're good, Carrie.
Did I freeze?
Yeah, you froze.
Okay, no, this
quite
is
dramatic.
This is the autographed copy of Street Riders, and that goes to Corpse Garden Chronicles.
Okay, we didn't hear Daredevil.
And
yeah, who did the Daredevil?
Oh, you didn't hear Daredevil?
No.
Nope.
Well, crap. Who did I say got? There. Okay. Who won? Wait. Okay. There. I'm trying to remember. Damn it. There was Jar won one. Okay, Ron won the first one.
Right. Tom won the second one.
Tom won the second one. Then Jar Jar won Daredevil.
Sweet.
And then Corpse Garden Chronicles won the book, which works out really well based on being an author. So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I will get all the info from
Sorry
you
about-
guys, and no problem. I'll get those out to folks. The Street Riders, just a heads up. I have a couple little things to do through the Amazon publishing system on that, so that might be a little bit of a wait, but not too long. So the other stuff, though, folks should get within a relatively short time. Okay.
And they know how that works. Yeah, I happen to know who Corpse Garden is, and yeah, we
Okay.
deal with
Good.
Amazon on a regular basis. So
Excellent.
Well,
yes.
Very cool.
What all do you have coming up in the future for, like, as far as cons go or signatures or anything?
Well, I've got there'll be 4 more issues of Risk. I mean, again, Risk #1 comes out tomorrow. If it's at your store, awesome. If it's not your store, tell them to order it. If you can't order it from your store for some reason, please go to blackboxcomics.net, and you will find it there on their homepage, and you can order at least 1 and 2 directly from Black Box and probably the subsequent ones. So please check it out. Leave a review there so we can sort of see what folks are thinking. I will be at Dragon Con, as Leo, had brought up at the beginning. That's in Labor Day. There may be some new shows coming up. If you follow my newsletter, storymaze.substack.com, which I'm actually writing again on a very regular basis, you will find any upcoming appearances probably mentioned there, first, as well as if you follow me on social at DG Chichester, pretty much everywhere. I will be, I will be self-serving myself by shilling my appearances. And then from Black Box Comics, actually, probably toward the end of the year, there will be a second limited series in the sword and sorcery genre. So I'm switching gears as much as I can, and that's looking pretty phenomenal as well. So hopefully we'll be able to start talking about that one in short order.
Nice.
Yeah.
So keep us posted. Yeah. Anything you need thrown up, we will advertise the shit out of it because we love it.
I will come back with guns blazing with a couple new things as soon as I got them going. And really, I cannot thank you enough. You guys are so enjoyable and you're very gracious in letting me come on here and talk my talk.
Oh no, you listen. Come back anytime, please. Good luck to everything you're working on.
Thank you.
We will continue to keep plugging any projects you have because all the support. So just thank you again for your time. And like we've said before, we really hope to see you at a con we're all at because that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm gonna go and ping Mitch again, try to get myself back in Terrificon because I know you guys will be there. And so, long as
that would be great.
Thought I was dissing him by not appearing at his big Daredevil.
No.
We'll all poke him too and be like, "We want Dan. Come on, bring Dan."
Right. Yeah, man.
Very cool. All right, folks, have a wonderful rest of the week, and we'll be in touch. I'll get the information, Carrie, from you whenever you've got it with all the other winners and such.
Of course.
All right, I will get that sent out to you. Awesome. Thank you so much. It was great to have you again.
Toast.
Toast.
All good.
See you, sir.
I love him. I just really love him. I know we talked a lot, but I love him.